Hello and welcome to Practical Knife Reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Bucklite 422. So the Bucklite was an old model that Buck started to introduce in 83, 84. Essentially it's a budget lightweight version of some of their other models. The 422 is essentially the plastic lightweight and cheap version of the Buck 112 folding hunter. It's just got a plastic composite handle. This, I believe, is Valox, which is just a cheap thermoplastic. Should be, depending on the year, this likely is a 420 HC steel blade. They did change the steel from 425 to 420 HC. I just don't know exactly when that change happened. You can see here on the tank stamp, Buck 422X. The X would indicate that this was made in 1990. But I believe that at this point that they were using the 420 HC for these models. And if I remember correctly, when they first came out in 1984-ish, these were selling for $12.15 in 84, 85, 86 money. You don't really see these anymore. I looked on eBay just before we got here just to see what you could find them for. And there was some that were in poor condition for $24, $25. The majority of the ones that I saw listed in decent condition were between 30 and 50, but whether or not that's a reasonable price or not, who knows? It's just what people have it listed for on eBay. But for decent condition, if you really wanted one to pick up on eBay right now, $30 to $50 and you'd be able to take one. They have different colored handles and different colored sheaths. I should mention there is a sheath which is on my side right now. And the knife slips into the top like that. Simple Velcro. Easy pull, tight fit and finish. Everything is super tight, no wobble at all. Up or down, side to side, easy engage. We'll look at more of the fit and finish on the inside, but this really is tight. Anyway, let's see how we're looking here. So I've been using this, but I haven't resharpened it lately. Didn't need to. The last time I sharpened it, I haven't really used it on anything hard lately, but you can see it's sharp. Cardboard. So in case you're EDCing this and you want to be cutting cardboard, a little bit more resistance on that second cut, a little bit more on that third one, but that's just because I went through every layer of cardboard there. But by and large, not much effort required to cut through cardboard. It goes through pretty easy. Now let's see how it is for peeling apples. Not the most comfortable reverse grip. The shape of the handle makes it so that the point here on the back of the handle is coming into your palm. So you have to either choke up real weird to get your hand in there before that point, or else you're just going to have the point in the middle of your palm, which is essentially what we've got here. But you can see we've got a hollow grind with a small secondary bevel here, but it's a real thin edge. It's the exact same blade as their 112 folding hunter, just with a plastic handle and a cheap nylon sheath. So this really was like the economy model of the 112 is, got too thick there. The economy model of the 112. Anyway, caveat, terrible apple peeler. Get that out of the way. But despite having to I'm having to keep my hand somewhat opened because of this. In the reverse grip, it's not really conducive to a reverse grip. Despite that, despite the fact that my hand is having to stay open, it's not a bad peeler. The blade's really slicey. It's just the handle shape's not really conducive to a reverse grip. You're much better off going this way because of the finger swells and yeah, the point of the handle. But you can see it's a pretty good peeler. And it's super, super lightweight. Let's get that off. Okie doke, let's check it out on wood now. Grab some pine. This is pine, it's a softwood. 420 HC from most companies, that's the blade steel, 420 HC. Typically not what you would consider a high quality steel, but Buck has quite the reputation for being able to milk every bit of edge retention out of 420HC that they can with their heat treating. They've really got the heat treat of 420HC down to a science. So, for those of you who don't have a buck somehow, my first knife was a buck, actually. I got it for Cub Scouts when I was like, I don't know, how old was I when I went to Cub Scouts? 8 or something like that?
Yeah.
I got a buck and then lost it about a year and a half later. So that was my first knife, though, was just a tiny little buck. In any case, yeah, if you don't have a buck and you were thinking about it and you see 420HC and you think to yourself, that's not a great steel, don't let that turn you off. Buck's for heat treat on their 420HC is great. Anyway, fairly decent feathers on the pine. Let's see how we do on some oak. This is red oak, hardest wood that we've got in our forest here. Let's see if I can clean up that edge so I have something to dig into. Kind of messed up the face of it. Let's try a different edge. That one I think was more me than anything else. Although, okay, there we go. We'll just try a hammer grip with this. See how we're doing with that. So the usual grip I was trying with this wasn't super effective. The hammer grip is a little bit more effective. The issue that I'm having here is that the blade stock is so thin at the end here because of this hollow grind, and you can see how thin that secondary bevel is. It's such a thin blade that it really wants to skate on the surface without really digging in. You have to kind of force it to go in because it's that thin. But I mean, if you get it in, the feathers are okay. It's just not that easy to really bear into the harder wood. It doesn't really want to sink because of the thinness of the blade stock, but you certainly can do it. You'd be able to make a fire with that, no problem. It just takes a little bit of extra effort to kind of horse it into the wood because of the thinness of the blade, making it want to skate across the surface. But, Ma, what do you think of this knife before we take it in and measure it and stuff?
I don't like the grip side shape of the handle, and I normally don't like plastic, but the camouflage cow somehow is working. It looks like a camouflage cow. Matches her pants perfectly.
Yeah, what do you know? These are my fleece-lined pants.
And so I don't mind the look of it, even though it's plasticky, but I don't like the grip side.
You mean the shape of it?
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of, I don't like having finger grooves
right.
in my handles because I like being able to put my fingers where I want to put my fingers instead of having them dictated to me by the knife. And yeah, I mean, I agree with that. But you would like how easy this pull is for sure, and how easy the lock is to disengage.
Yeah.
We'll let you look at it. Anyway, we're gonna take it inside. We'll look at some specs and have Mom give her final thoughts on it. We're back on Practical Knife Reviews. We're again taking a look at the Bucklite. This would be the Bucklite 1, also known as the Buck 422. Again, the X on the tank stamp is denoting it was made in 1990, made in the USA. And I believe that by 1990 they had switched this model over to the 420HC steel, but if you get something from 83, 84 when this model first started coming out, you might be looking at 425 stainless steel. But in any case, let's get a closer look at this. Just a plain old thin nylon sheath. It's got a top closure like you saw outside. The knife fits in there pretty well. You just unvelcro it, pull the knife out. It's the same size as the Buck 112. They had two other sizes of the Bucklite. There's the Bucklite, I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but this would be the Bucklite 1, and then the Bucklite 2 and Bucklite 3 were larger. But same sort of construction here. We've got a clip point blade. These are Velox handles. Let's take a look at the fit and finish real quick before we do the measurements. No blade play whatsoever. No gapping whatsoever. Closes up real nice. Centering, dead center. Opening pull is like a 3, 4, maybe probably 3. It's really easy to open, easy to disengage the back lock. We'll let Mom do that while I get the ruler set up. So Ma, you haven't used this one too much, but what do you think of that knife in terms of, you know, opening, closing, overall aesthetics, all of that, while I get this all set up to go?
Super easy to open, and I cannot open things easy and close as well. Aesthetics wise, I said the only thing I don't like is the grip side of the handle, but the camouflage claw actually works for me, even though it's on a plastic handle. You know, it color coordinates with your pants, and how much, that's what I go for, is you gotta be coordinated.
Oh, wow. We're at 4 1/4 inches long closed. We're looking at 7 1/4 inches open, about a 3, and it depends on where on the blade you're measuring from. The back side is a little bit longer, 3 1/8 inch long overall, I guess you'd say. And the cutting length is 2 3/4 inches long. Let's get the weight now. This is where this is really going to stand up, because this is a light knife. Get the scale in there, get the glare off of there. We're looking at 2.5 ounces, which is 72 grams. With the sheath, 88 grams. In other words, the sheath does not weigh much. Oops, overshot it. I want to go back to ounces. 2.6 ounces without the sheath, 3.1 ounces with it. And yeah, there's just a simple belt loop through here that you stick your belt through. But yeah, like I said, not really a knife that you find everywhere, but you can find them on eBay for condition for $25 or so, or pretty decent condition for between $30 and $50. This one was one for my grandpa, so some sentimental value to it. But you know, you can see it's got a pretty deep hollow grind on it. It's a nice slicer. It works real good. I carry it around relatively frequently. But yeah, I think it's a nice knife, and the prices that you would get it for online, this is what I want to say. When this came out, it was like $12.15, and this would be a very good deal for $12.15, or even if you adjusted for inflation and said $18 or something like that, new, $20 new. Bucks 420 HC steel heat treat, you're not going to get a budget steel heat treated better than that. Even though it's a pretty simple steel, you're not going to get a better heat treat than that. The handle, it's not that uncomfortable in just a standard grip. Hammer grip, meh, not great. Reverse grip, not great. But for just random everyday kind of tasks, it'd be fine. I'm assuming that for skinning an animal, it would be fine. That's kind of why it's a 112 folding hunter, but with plastic handles, essentially. So all of the things that you would do with a 112, you could do with this. I don't like the finger grooves. They don't make it any more comfortable, and they really do restrict you from any other grips. And they don't do anything for me. Front finger groove is a little bit narrow as it is. And yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the handle profile, but this is a budget knife. So if it was selling for what it sold for new, it would be a decent deal. But $50 for this knife as a used knife online, I would not recommend that. $30, maybe. I mean, if you're a buck collector, or if this pattern really speaks to you, then maybe. But I don't know. That's asking a bit for a used knife with just a simple construction like this that was made to be a budget knife. Buck has new knives using the same blade steel, but with, you know, different handle options. You can buy it new for this price or less. If you just like this style and you want it a little bit bigger, I've got a marbles knife that's basically a, you know, the marbles version of this knife, but bigger, so the 110s equivalent. And that was you get the knife and a paracord bracelet, and what else? I thought there was something else. And the nylon sheath, which is actually a little bit nicer than this one, if I do say so myself. Of course, the steel is not as nice. It's just their 440A. But in any case, you get all three of those for $10. So to justify like $40 for this as a used knife, when you could get a new buck for less, or you could get an equivalent just if you want the pattern for $10 plus extra stuff, I don't know. Doesn't really say anything to me. What do you think, Ma?
I like this knife.
Anything else?
I don't like the grips, but I like the knife.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a good working knife. I just, don't like the handle that much. A brief interruption as my sister called while we were filming. So I was just about to wrap it up anyway. So we'll do this quick and then we'll say hi to Laura. Anyway, yeah, overall, pretty decent knife. I like it. If you can get it for really cheap, get it. Anyway, that'll do it for this week on Practical Knife Reviews. Take care, and we'll see you again very soon with another review.